warm welcome to Political Capital. I'm Karabole Tlatla. It's the talk of the streets in the run-up to the big elective conference that's only a matter of days away now. Who is going to be the front runner for the presidency of the African National Congress? It's going to be a tough fight, and tonight we have one of the heavyweight contenders. They call him the compromise candidate and even the unifier. Whichever way you look at it, Zweli Mkhize is the Treasurer General of the ruling African National Congress at the top of the structure. Who is Zweli Mkhize? If you don't know by now, you should.
Zweli Mkhize is 61. He was born near Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal in 1956 and qualified as a doctor in 1982, in the days when black doctors were few. He was steeped in politics and had to go into exile in 1986. First Swaziland, then Zimbabwe. He returned to his hometown in 1991 to work in a hospital. When democracy dawned, he held a number of posts, including the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal and MEC for Health in the same province. He is the Treasurer General of the ANC and a man to watch in the next few weeks. What do the political analysts think?
But there's something else about Zweli Mkhize. There are those who argue that he will emerge as a compromise candidate. That too is just either propaganda or wishful thinking. Because a compromise candidate emerges under certain conditions, very specific conditions. There must be a stalemate between the dominant factions. And the dominant factions must accept that there is a stalemate and must accept that their candidate cannot win. And when the dominant factions accept that their candidate cannot win, then they will look for a candidate who can make them win the leadership contest. They may go for the same candidate or different compromise candidates. But that situation is not what we have in the ANC at the moment, and therefore the contest at the moment does not have room for a compromise candidate. So positioning Zweli Mkhize as a compromise candidate, in my view, is political folly.
Let's cast our eye onto December. We're only a couple of days away from December. Sure. If you get elected as ANC president in December, it will be as a function of the branches and members of ANC. But why do you personally, as Zweli Mkhize, want to be the president of this country?
Well, we're talking first here about president of the African National Congress. I believe that the organization is going through a difficult time, and I must make myself available amongst those who will help to strengthen the organization, to unite the organization, to build a strong organization that will be capable of winning the elections in 2019, an organization that will continue the agenda for transformation, socio-economic transformation of our country.
According to the public, and this is a feeling that you get when you go onto social media platforms, when you hear South Africans, ordinary South Africans, speak about the failings of the movement of the ANC. They say that it has been unable to act on crime, that we have not prosecuted anyone for all the malfeasance and allegations that we have heard about state capture in state institutions, and that in the last 2 years, the ANC government has weakened the very same state institutions that it wants to use to hold people accountable. Are you guilty on both charges, and how do you turn a page on both charges?
Well, I think that when there is a concern about the weaknesses of various institutions, I think we need to accept that there's urgency needed in stabilizing those institutions to make sure that we've got permanent, well-qualified, heads of those institutions, so that people are not there on acting capacity, then they are not in doubt when they have to take particular decisions. I would agree that we need to speed up that process, and the fact that when we raise issues of action, a number of instances where you have to deal with people who are accused of any malfeasance or irregularities, the state institutions have to act without fear or favor. They need to be able to move so that it's not even a matter of having to think about, the political leadership, because these are straightforward issues of a criminal nature that, the state institution should be able to act.
If the ANC was to really clean up house, it would involve cleaning up house. That means possibly prosecuting some of your own comrades. Do you have the stomach for that?
Actually, I do not believe that our state institutions should fail to prosecute any member irrespective of their status in society. There have been a number of senior leaders of the organization that have been charged and they've been prosecuted, and these are people who are in charge of departments or government or mayors or MECs. So this does happen. I think the question becomes, how do we make sure that there's a sense of consistency, there's a sense of acting with speed, and the sense of being decisive, so that when such issues happen, people must see that we are acting speedily in those instances. But that it's been happening, it is true. If you were to go into all the states, you will find that there are many people who have been removed from jobs, people who have been charged, and some of them who have been taken to custody.
Allow me to say, I think the people are really looking for the higher up on the list, because that's really where the rot starts. If you look at an entity like ESCOM, for instance, and some of the hearings that we heard, and some of the revelations that come out of hearings like that, you see that the problem is really at the top. The people who let contracts, not get signed, not get vetted, and still people get paid on the other side. It's almost having a veneer of an ethical leader, but I think South Africa needs a competent leader before we get onto the ethics issue. Or am I wrong?
No, I think you need both. You need ethical leadership, you need competent leadership, you need a performance-driven style of leadership. So you need that, and I would say it's something that we must ensure that at all levels our leadership does fit into that kind of bill. But when you talk about the various institutions, you will notice that there has been a number of suspensions on people whose names have been implicated in the state-owned enterprises. And I would agree, yes, there are a lot of investigations need to be done there, and thoroughly, dig out all the issues around what is involved, particularly in the issues of ESCOM. And we are waiting for this commission of inquiry, because I think that's going to be the most, comprehensive investigation into the matter. That will therefore allow us to be able to say when there is action that needs to be done, it will be much clearer. But right now, nothing stops any investigation, any charges to be laid against anyone whose names have been mentioned.
I'm going to ask you this because the ANC always speaks as a collective, and you say that you are a collective organization, you take leadership collectively. So collectively, how does the top echelon of leadership within the ANC not see that the president is just too close to the state capture inquiry to be making a decision on his own as an implicated person?
Look, the issue here is that you need a judge to lead a commission of inquiry. And that commission of inquiry must be allowed to subpoena anyone and to be able to act, to investigate any person, any information, any allegation in relation to the issue of state capture, and that we have actually generally agreed that a commission of inquiry needs to be appointed. There was a debate about whether, when the public protector says that the name must come from the Chief Justice, and whether that needs to be done by the president or not. And the point that we're making is that the court is going to rule on that. And once the court has ruled, I think we should be able to say we understand, because the question, our understanding was that it was not a question of whether we need the commission of inquiry or not. The question was whether there is an infringement of the separation of powers, and that was the question. But let's leave that issue for a while and come back to the judge. Now, I don't think we've got enough evidence to suspect that a judge can be appointed that will actually fudge the investigation. Because the suggestion here is that maybe if the president has signed the judge, all the judges are actually appointed by the president, and all of them have no fear on taking a decision against the state, against the president, against the ministers. And so why would it be different if they have got to go through an investigation?
Allow me to say people would bring up the Serret Commission when you say that we've seen a much long-waited upon investigation that yielded very little. The Serret Commission did not actually yield anything.
Well, I don't want to go into the issue of the Serret Commission, just to say that fortunately our justice system is such that anyone who's aggrieved, who is unhappy, is actually able to take that commission, can take that commission to court. And that process, once it gets to court, the other judges will then rule on the matter. So I think that we must keep, you see, I worry about us beginning to cast aspersions on the judiciary, which on a matter that is not based on something that a particular judge has done, but simply because we are having unhappiness about the fact that the president is implicated, and therefore we are arguing that the judges therefore will also be implicated. I think we must separate the two. The judges have ruled on matters that had to do with the government, and they didn't have any concern at that level. There was no fear. They were able to do that. We've seen commissions coming out now. Sometimes it's difficult to say, if you don't like the outcome of the commission, then we must start castigating the judge. I don't think it's correct to do that. I think we must either take the matter up for review in court if we are not happy with it, but we must also say that if the judges make a judgment like anyone else, if there's something we don't like about it, we must be able to take a stand on that and say we think this must be taken forward.
South Africa has found itself in a tough 2017. We've been downgraded to junk status. Some say it's a combination of two factors, of global factors, which are affecting our commodity prices and things that we sell to the world. And the other is very much self-inflicted pains. Do you think, and if not, why? If not, please tell me why. But do you think the ANC in 2017 has scored an own goal with regards to its view on the economy? Do you think that there were things that we could have done better that we didn't?
Well, I think that in retrospect there may be areas where we could have done things differently, but I think we must start by saying that the economic decline was all linked to the global factors. It was linked to the situation in the US. It was linked to the issue of commodity prices, the fuel prices. It was linked to a whole lot of those.
We are off to a short ad break, but when we return, we speak about Zweli Mkhize's chances of winning in December. Welcome back to Political Capital, because you can't have one without the other. This is the second part of my interview with ANC Treasurer General Zweli Mkhize. Mkhize and I discussed corruption, the Gupta family, and what he makes of his competitors for the throne of ANC president. It feels like there's almost no consequence for the billions and billions that have been lost through Eskom. Like, I'm just naming one state-owned entity. It seems that no one has been held accountable. There is no one in jail. There is no one to be prosecuted. There is nothing. There is no movement. What do you give South Africans when there is no movement on corruption?
But you see, here, I don't understand why the investigations aren't being done. I think those investigations need to be done. I don't believe that there's a reason why this matter should not be investigated. Where it deals with the complexity of issues and there are hearings that might be needed and so on, that for purposes of the Commission of Inquiry that needs to be set up, I think that we can understand. But nothing stops action from being taken. I don't believe. I think the action needs to be taken, investigations need to be done so that we can put those issues behind us. At the end of the day, you don't need anyone to announce. Once there's a report of fraud, or once there's a report of criminal activity taking place, those kinds of things need to be properly investigated, and I don't see why they shouldn't.
I'm going to talk about a family that has come up in 2017, over and over, and before 2017. The group has become a recurring feature in our politics. And they also almost appear to be immune of culpability, responsibility, or prosecution. Does the ANC need to distance itself from the Guptas? And what do we do permanently about, association with a family that's being investigated from here to the United States?
Well, firstly, let me say that, you see, the ANC, as ANC, you can't make an allegation of ANC being captured. All right. I am part of that leadership. What we are aware of are associations with various individuals, and in that case, I think that we need to separate the matters. Where there are irregularities, where there are criminal activities or allegations, those need to be properly investigated and be taken through the process of our justice system. Where the whole issue relates to the bigger question around the state capture, I think that all of those, the emails, the various companies, the research that come from various universities, all the accusations that are out there, all of that needs to go to a commission of inquiry so that we can have the entirety of the matter being exposed.
Do you think the ANC can turn itself around if it doesn't win the public over the state capture allegations? Don't you think that is the one thing the ANC can do? Because you definitely can move crime and you definitely can move employment. None of those are within your control. But state capture and its death is firmly within the leadership's control. As one of the leaders of the ANC, wouldn't you like to go into the elections with this matter resolved?
Well, I believe that the processes should be such that we must be able to get those matters properly resolved and investigated.
You are one of the runners due for, you've been nominated by branches of the ANC to lead the ANC come December. What separates your campaign from the other two front runners?
Well, I've indicated what I want to contribute in the African National Congress, a particular style of leadership, which really deals with, ability to consult and ability to, be decisive, and also to focus on implementation of decisions and focus on being able to ensure that we monitor decision making, the implementation of decisions, and putting out targets. And I believe that there is experience one has come from of being part of a very divided, African National Congress in the province, and also working together to unite it. So I think that those are also unique, specific experiences that one would be able to bring along. I have served in government for almost 19 years. And I believe that that experience will help us as we move on.
Your other two comrades, namely Dlamini-Zuma and Serret Commission, are seen as front runners and favorites to win this. Why are you running if it's a foregone conclusion?
Well, I don't know about the foregone conclusion. If everything was that easy, there would not be a conference. I think we need to say that we must allow the branches of the ANC to take the decisions, and the process has been going on. There's been nominations, there are engagements going on, there'll be nominations on the floor, there'll be voting, and there's engagements. So ultimately the members of the ANC are doing their best to try and create a united ANC leadership, a leadership that can work together, unite the organization and unite the country. And so they must be given that space to do that. And I think that it's good to deal with the sensation of the time and what are the figures doing and so on and so on. But I think at the end of the day, we need to know that, for a president, there's only one person that is needed. So everyone else who's making themselves available are allowing the branches to take a pick and therefore say, this is the one.
You've been burning rubber, earning flyer miles, crisscrossing the country, speaking to branches. Do you believe you have enough branch support to wage a proper campaign come December?
I think it's not for me to say that I've got enough branch support. I need to be able to say I've made myself available. Let's leave the branches to take the decisions.
Part of the problem about ANC politics is that it's been marred. It's been marred by allegations, sure, without any concrete proof. No one has seen anyone with a brown envelope. But these things are more than just fibs and truths that we tell each other because we're bored. There are things at stake here, and becoming a president of the ANC says, in its definition, says that there are things at stake. There's a reason why a man as yourself, a man such as Cyril Ramaphosa, and a woman such as Dlamini-Zuma would be seen as the front runners. It's not a by-the-by kind of job. Are you worried about democracy reigning, or will you just accept what happens in December, regardless of the allegations?
We have had these allegations. The unfortunate thing about them that they remain stories that are unproven, uncorroborated. So we would love to get evidence. Then we can act on it if we can find the proof of that. In the absence of such, we need to rely on the fact that the branches have to be engaged, the delegates have to be engaged, and people get to persuade each other, get persuaded. And we also have a lot of faith in the desire of the ANC members and the delegates who will represent them to change the ANC for the better, to strengthen the ANC, to unite the ANC, and to deal with some of the weaknesses and the challenges that the ANC is facing, so that the organization can, continue to, have the image that our people will be very proud of. And we believe that, more than the love for money, the desire to create a strong and vibrant ANC is a stronger passion on our members. So whatever issues there are around any attempts to try and influence irregularly, we must say that the ordinary member of the ANC would like to see a good leadership, would like to see leadership that can inspire them, leadership that can be effective in helping the ANC to solve the problems of society. So no one would like to see a leadership that can be bought or that they can pay to be able to elect.
It's very difficult to deny that South Africans want that kind of newness, that kind of let's start again, clean page, clean slate kind of feeling. ZANU is to hold a press conference on December 12th. The ANC is holding a conference on December 16th. Is there a chance that one could influence another?
Look, I wouldn't be sure, because our agendas are not the same at conference.
But the mood?
No, even the mood is not quite the same. South Africa is different. You have a limited term for a state president, which was not the case in Zimbabwe. You've also got an understanding and precedent inside the ANC that your president is not likely to spend more than 2 terms, and they frown upon any effort to go for the 3rd term. These two are very, very important.
But in terms of substantial policies?
In terms of substantial policy, we're building a South African nation where we are focusing on how to deal with the deracialization of the country, so that we have equality in terms of the attitudes, the way we build our nation, the way we have social cohesion, where we create peace, a crime-free society, where we're focusing on an economy that is more inclusive, that is actually more transformed, that is growing, that is helping our people to live a more sustainable lives. We've had a whole program on housing, our program on electricity, on water, and so on. It's unparalleled. It's not comparable to what we are seeing in many countries. And so I think we're very different. The only thing that I think has also been
in terms of expectations from
in terms of expectations
from the people like me.
In terms of the expectations out of the conference, we will have a new president of the African National Congress. And that for us is an important issue. It's going to happen. And so we know that's going to happen. Who it's going to be, the conference will decide. So that newness and that change is part and parcel of, we always talk about continuity and change. We talk about the need for a change. And in this case, we're actually looking at it as a new leadership that's going to be coming through, and we will have it. And so I think in terms of looking at the parallel, one thing which I thought was important about Zimbabwe is that at least you didn't have any bloodshed, no lives were lost, no windows were broken, and I wish we could learn from that. Because certainly this is our country, we need to actually protect it as much as we want to also show disapproval of things that we don't like. So I think that what has happened in Zimbabwe is very good. It's ushering a new era, possibly of a new economic growth, but also to create a very strong and vibrant economy. We're very hopeful, and that will be good for South Africa.
It's only days to go now until ANC members decide once and for all whom will be their next leader. In the next weeks, we will be bringing you more key players and real challenges. Till next time, good evening.